Are we working? Please tell me it's working. Please tell me it's working. God damn it. Should be working. Oh, okay, here we go. Tell me it's working. Much gooder. Please tell me it's working. God damn it. Okay, everybody. Heidi-ho there, neighbors. Yeah, for whatever reason, there's about a 10-second delay between when I hit start and when the actual video starts. Yeah, some bitch. Okay, well, this is, as of yesterday with the video, that was my 5th anniversary. Hello, everybody. There's a lot of you waiting for me. Woohoo! I am popular. I already was, but at least you admit it. Anyways, so yeah, this is a fine. Got this looking for a flagpole. When you sign up for the the first U.S. Volunteer Cavalry, and they say anytime, any place, they do mean anytime. Next thing you know, you're fighting in 15th century Spain. They didn't mention that. Okay. So that was kind of interesting. Anyway, yeah, it was kind of a weird. I originally started this channel a long time ago, and because nobody was talking about Mystara, everybody was talking about Forgotten Realms. That was it. That was all. Nobody ever talks about any other setting other than Forgotten Realms. Well, now they talk about Spelljammer, and they talked about Dark Sun, but nobody talks about Dark Sun in depth. You're not going to find reviews of every single Dark Sun product, and there's quite a few. Granted, a lot of them were the really bad box sets that they just kind of threw out at the end because TSR were just throwing anything out. If you guys got any questions about anything, just give me, that's what I'm here for tonight. The original Mystara the video was terrible. I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I was supposed to try to read the try to do the entire one take, just do a oneer for 15 minutes, and I did. The very first video was a oneer. I did not stop. If I made a mistake, I started completely over. It was impressive, it was tedious, and it was awful. And then Eberron's actually one of the few. Okay, a lot of stuff, a good number of the creatures have been borged out of Eberron, but not ever. But it hasn't adopted almost everything. Yeah. The problem with Spelljammer with Spelljammer in 5th edition is Spelljammer was a problem in 2nd edition. People don't remember that. It lasted less than 2 years. How would I improve the domain rules in the... Okay, Dean Powell asks, how would you improve the domain rules in the Rule Cyclopedia? First off, do not give one to every single character. That was a bad idea. And it shows. It shows in the modules for the Companion Edition. If you're going to do something like that, you need to make it just something going on in the background while the party goes exploring. Every once in a while, like, was it the Dragon Age RPG, where you get your castle in one of the DLCs, and every once in a while you got to go back and you got to do castle stuff, but other than that you're still out and adventuring. I was skeptical about the new Willow series, but I saw Warwick Davis and I put my faith in Warwick Davis. So that man has acting chops and he's got producing chops. They're making everything cartoonish for Deploribus Rex. They're making everything in 5th edition right now cartoonish. I've seen the art. It looks like something out of a Scholastics fair. I'm holding judgment on the new Radiant Citadel, but that art looks really cartoonish. The problem with Dark Sun is they can't get the psychic rules done right. And without the psychic rules, you don't have Dark Sun. Dark Sun also is extremely restrictive, which is something that Dark Sun's always been. It's like half of the races are already dead. You don't have all the classes. your magic is completely different. That's one problem with Dark Sun. It's incredibly lethal, and 5th edition is more of a superhero game than the Dark Sun lethal time. It's like 5th edition does have its uses. Some settings work better in 5th edition. Like I mentioned earlier on another video, Savage Coast, which is the Red Steel source book, which is you've got superpowers. Yeah, you've got a curse, but you're supposed to be super heroic high fantasy. 5th edition does super heroic high fantasy better than any other edition. Thank you, Joe the lawyer. Wizards doesn't want to write themselves into a hole for whatever reason, and they don't understand it. They don't understand that some people like background. That's why we're still talking about these settings. Spelljammer, but going back to Spelljammer did not do well originally. And it's hard to do worse than the original Spelljammer. Lorraine Williams told them flat out she wanted D&D in space, and she was told by the people involved, 2nd edition does not do space rules very well. It's a fantasy game. You cannot use the same setting to try to make this into a Star Wars-esque game. And they told her flat out, it's not going to work. The mechanics aren't designed that way. And she says, make it work. So they came up with Spelljammer, and it didn't work. It had serious rules issues. It was also during the time when TSR was going through the silly phase. You had the Jim Holloway art, which, oh my God, that man was a miracle worker. 6th edition. Okay, the Rasslin Theater asks, do you think 6th edition would be another case of missing the point like in 4th? All right. 6th edition, I have a feeling, and this is just me, that it's going to be heavily influenced by Hasbro. They're going to want something that they can turn into video games and movies and stuff like that. And if Hasbro gets involved, then Wizards is off the hook because their hands are going to be tied and there's nothing they're going to do for it. 4th edition is actually making a renaissance because people are putting it online, and it plays better online than it does in live on tabletop, which is kind of the biggest complaint about 4th edition is it played like a computer game. Okay, we made it into a computer game. You know what? It's actually not bad now. Okay, let me see. Not enough Star Trek, even Michael Finn. Not enough Star Trek, even if Vulcans are space elves. Depends on the space elf. Yeah, Spelljammer had a lot of great concepts, but the rules just didn't do the system well. And then they took the same rules, applied them to Buck Rogers, and had the same problems with Buck Rogers. There's a lot of people on there right now talking about, there's like, well, they're going to spin off Wizards of the Coast. Hasbro does not give up product, or does not give up IP. They never have. They never will. They will take Dungeons and Dragons and they will license it all to hell. And that's what they're going to do. You're going to end up with, as many versions of, thank you, Amassed Gaming. They're gonna make it like Risk or Monopoly or Clue, where you have all these different Dungeons and Dragons options, like they have now. They've got you've got Stranger Things Dungeons and Dragons. You've got Rick and Morty Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm surprised they don't have a lot more stuff. If I could get some people to help me with the rights for Mystara, we'd be pumping stuff out all day. But they don't do that yet. I don't know why not. Thank you very much. Okay, let me see. I know of, Saint Ajora of the Zodiac Braves. I don't know Seth Sikorsky personally. I've watched his videos. I think we've been mentioned in the same sentence on various things about people who cover obscure stuff. But I've never actually talked to the man personally, and I've never done a stream with him. Let me see. And to answer a question that was asked before the stream went up about do I think that Dungeon Crawl Classics would be good for Mystara, I'm not that big of a fan of Dungeon Crawl Classics. It's a little too gimmicky for my tastes. But if you're going to it's a good dungeon crawl game, and early Mystara, especially with the basic system, is nothing but dungeon crawls. So aside from the fact that the magic's a bit wonky and you got all the extra dice, it can work. It would be a better match for Thunder Rift, which is all dungeon crawling all the time. And so yeah, we're getting it's like they want to carry, they want to make the money off of the old names, but they don't want they don't want anything attached from the older stuff. But they're not making any new stuff either. That's the problem. So the third edition, we only got one setting in third edition officially, Eberron. Nintir Vale was the only edition we got for fourth edition. So you've got, if you count the original, you got the 9 from basic, first, second, and then third edition. That's 10, and 9 of those were before that, before Wizards. Wizards has only given us 2 official settings of any note. They gave us some gimmicky stuff like was it Ghostlight, where you're all dead, but you get it was an interesting concept. Don't get me wrong, people love it, but it's like one book. Yeah, like I said, I was getting a flag for my Banner Cymru Drag Colk, and they had this, and it's like the price was right. I was like, okay, give me the hat too. So I got this in a flag ball. And the problem, and Wizards doesn't have the same talent that Dungeons and Dragons had, because, or TSR had, the early TSR, because Gary Gygax just, it was brand new. It was like, who's the equivalent of Zeb Cook today? Who's the equivalent of Aaron Alston or Tom Moldvay? It was like, I don't know. It's like, I would love to. I'd love to see, regular modules coming out, but we also have to remember, Dungeons and Dragons, as far as being financially cared for, doesn't have the best track record. Gary was forced out because they were starting to lose money. Lorraine lost them a lot of money. Wizards took over, and they started losing market share to Pathfinder. And then they switched to 4th edition. 4th edition got forced out to 5th edition. 5th edition's still on top. But I seriously believe they're leaving a lot of money on the thing. So let me see. IG Commissar Jake. The biggest issue with Modern Me is the harvesting of nostalgia over creativity and ingenuity. Yes. Yes, it is. Because a lot of the nostalgia we have, if we take off the nostalgia goggles, a lot of the stuff isn't very good. Or it wasn't as good as we remember. Like Spelljammer, for example. You'll read back the books, it's like, this is unplayable. And a lot of the older modules, it's like you had to fill in all the blanks. And that was, and that's what we don't remember. It's like, it was, I'm trying to figure out how to say this right. You get, you get all of the different, you get all the older modules, and they throw them together, and it was just like they were throwing stuff at the wall to see what stuck, but more stuff stuck than what didn't. I rated every module, the good and the bad. Nobody remembers the average. It's like the worst Mystara module was by Ed Greenwood. He was like good, great setting writer, but he didn't make very good modules. That's why I think he only made 2 of them. Let me see what's going on. So yeah, they're trying to capture the nostalgia, but they're also changing the nostalgia. There's there was Ravenloft. The old school Ravenloft people swore it off, because it was just, there was no interaction. You just like go from one horror vignette to another, and when you're putting all this stuff together, people love the deep dive. Absolutely, people love going into a setting. It's like, oh wow, and it's like stealing stuff right and left. I can even if you're not playing Dungeon or Ravenloft, you can still steal ideas for another setting. Any of these bad guys can just be a one-off in your own game world. They keep trying to throw out they keep trying to throw out the new magic settings, yes. And I think a large amount of that is to trying to save money. Their art, for whatever reason, has been spotty. And even the D&D fanboys who believe that 5th edition can do no wrong are starting to notice that the art is off. The Last Dragon book, a lot of the art was either recycled from or Magic the Gathering. Some of it wasn't even finished. And it was starting to get noticeable. It really is starting to get noticeable that they're recycling art. That could be just a way to save money, and don't get me wrong, recycling art in an RPG is par for the course. That's not a knock on them. That's standard business. They have the Ravnica. They already have all of they've got the trademark, not the trademarks, but they've got all the IP already. You can't, we've got Theros. Well, you already had the Greek mythology book. They made second edition, but you can't trademark Zeus. You can't trademark Hera. You can't trademark Aphrodite. Hello. And it's like, okay, so Theros came out, and it was like, okay, everybody's like, oh, hey, this isn't bad, this isn't nice, it's got some new monsters for us. And then, but they originally came out with a thing with Ravnica was first, and people came out and said, hey, this is like Spelljammer, but not as good. And then Strixhaven came out, and people are like, what is this? This is barely playable. This has been done, and it's been done better by you. Starfinder here came. Okay, Caliban wanted to know what my thoughts on Palizzo's redheaded stepchild Starfinder is. It came and gone. It was here so fast. It came and gone. I never got a chance to look at it because nobody plays it locally. And by the time I noticed it, it was already on the discount shelves at half-price books. And games are regional. What sells here may not sell in your neighborhood and vice versa. But here, Starfinder was dead on arrival. I haven't really looked at it because I've got so much other stuff, and there was no interest here locally. And that's something that I don't know. Paizo's second edition Pathfinder, also people are kind of meh on it. And yeah, they've got, okay, when it comes to Strixhaven, when people ask me about Strixhaven could have been good. It could have been fantastic. They could have looked at the other schools of magic that they have in other settings. Fae, Glantry, the Arcane school in Dragonlance. That's what we think of when we think of Arcane High School, not Magic Prom. And that's, I have a strong feeling that they wanted to put Strixhaven in high school, but because they had rules for Bumpin' Ugly, and you can't do that in high school, because then people are like, hey, are we playing 14-year-olds trying to have sex with each other? Because that's not cool. That's not kosher. No way, no. Let me see. Yeah. Let me see. Do I want to? Okay, Victor D20. I'm bringing back Dungeon Magazine. Do you want to contribute? My adventures are usually not for anything outside the setting I'm running because they're highly specialized. Me writing a generic dungeon or a generic adventure, I'm not the best choice for that. Does the Critical Role stuff count as a new setting? They are official D&D books. Yeah, but I think they're third party, or they hired them off the Torah deal. Okay, guys, I haven't watched a single second of Critical Role. I know that Colville made Wizards of the Coast a lot of money. I know he's made them a ton of money. So they gave him a book and says, "Hey, here's your setting, and you're now a D&D official one." And it's like, good for him. I'm not going to fault another gamer for hitting it big. But I don't think there's any expansions for it. I don't think it's anything more than a single book, because everything he did before that was third party. Yeah, let me see. The Strixhaven book is, Strixhaven or Stixhaven. Is it Strixhaven? I think it's Strix. It kind of stole from Birthright a little bit because you had time jumps. Okay, Michael Finn, a good question. You mentioned in your video a text of the BPL and your mini games playing. There was a single game with good grappling rules somewhere. That game is that. That is Street Fighter, the role-playing game, which there's a clone of it, which is the exact same game, only with the art stripped out on the internet somewhere, where the game was all about martial arts. So the martial arts rules had to be good, and they did the grappling rule where you had a grappling stat, or as a technique. It was a special ability, and you had to have your grappling technique up to a certain level to grab certain types of grapples. But if you grabbed onto somebody, you could hold them for a certain amount of time, which was your rating, and then you were doing damage to them as you were like squeezing them or immobilizing them, and they had abilities to try to get out of the grapple, but they were also taking, if they didn't get out of the grapple, they were taking damage. So kind of like a real wrestling maneuver. It was Street Fighter is accidentally one of the best comedy games ever written. It was written as completely straight face, but it's one of the most gonzo games you can play, because you're going to be handing out XP because everybody just wants to do kung fu fighting. It's, hey, let's make a Steven Seagal movie but add furries. Okay, that sounds like a terrible idea. And then the terrible idea was it looped back to good. Yeah, and Street Fighter the RPG is still out there. If you want to get it in print, it's not that cheap, or it's not that expensive. It's not a collector's item. Just watch out for the player's guide, because the player's guide is a perfect example of, okay, we've got a quasi hit. What are we going to do? It's like, let's rush something out. Shouldn't we playtest this first? Nah. And then you get cartwheel kick, which you can drop M. Bison at level 1 with a cartwheel kick. Moonring XD. Have I read any of the Greenwood third-party Forgotten Realms books, like the Thay book? I don't actually read Forgotten Realms books that much. I mean, it's not my bag. I guess they're good though. I haven't heard any complaints, but I don't read. I don't usually read the Forgotten Realms stuff that much. I don't really play in Forgotten Realms. Daniel K. TSR was pretty gonzo at the start. Well, kinda. That one, the timeline on that one goes all over the place. Charlotte Williams, go check out the Street Fighter RPG game. That's all we were talking about. Fat people doing a keto with 5 points of animal hybrid. Okay, but going back to the TSR gonzo. TSR, okay, Dave Arneson, Temple of the Frog, that was kind of gonzo. It was like swords and lasers and straight up 70s sci-fi, sci-fantasy mixed together. Then they went back to standard fantasy. And then right after they ousted Gary, they got into the silly phase. And that's when it kind of got into the over-to-the-top gonzo. And that didn't last very long because second edition did one thing well, and gonzo was not that one thing. But they were also trying to get rid of Gary's legacy for some reason. Yeah, Gamma World was okay. Daniel K. Gamma World was, depending on which version of Gamma World, was gonzo. Third and fourth edition were gonzo as hell, and people loved it. And then they decided, let's do a serious phase. Like, hey, let's make Fresh Prince of Bel-Air into a drama, and see how that goes. It's like, here's how it goes. It doesn't go. And they got rid of, and then they went into the last version, which was basically 4th edition, but with Gamma World. And the Gamma World fans seem to love that one. The same way that you love getting on your moped and going off-roading. It's not something you'll do long term. It's not something that's a good idea. But damn if it ain't fun. Yeah, and Serene was very much in the silly phase, or the Paydar Ruin. Serene was the part of the gonzo. It was in the silly phase. Again, if it has Jim Holloway art all the way through the book, count that as the silly phase, because that man could make some hilarious art. But it was also some of the most off-putting if you're trying to read a serious book and you have like a jury box where people aren't a jury box for a demon and people are loading weapons to shoot the guy. Let me see. Victor D20. Speaking of Blackmore Magitag, the Njatwa in the party got a custom-fitted suit of power armor. Now I can barely hit them. Any good high-level monsters in Mystara? Well, there's always the Black Ball. I mean, hey, you touch it, it dies. But that's not a creature. That's a DM fiat. You have, the Bodendruker. You have the original Leviathans. Demons were a thing. They were called fiends for a while, but demons are a thing in Mystara but you had to get to the Immortal book to get to them. Phoenix the Hound. This might be okay. It's not a dumb question, but is there a master list of the books that have to do with Mystara somewhere? Yes, on the Vaults of Pandius. I think there's 3 or 4 lists. I don't know of exactly which one, but if you look around on the vaults, they're not hard to find. Yeah, Daniel K. Holloway is like Phil Foglio, very much in the comedic aspect, and flying rust monsters with anthrax. But I mean, are we talking like 1980s anthrax with Scott Ian? Because after they got rid of Joey, the band really went downhill. Carbonated prune juice, a warrior's drink. Then, Wizards is they're trying to capture the nostalgia, and they're throwing us all these bones, but I don't know if they're understanding what made people what made people like these in the first place. Every setting represented something new, but it attracted a different crowd. The Mystara was all about the historical people because it's easy to get into. It's like, hey, I want to play a Scott. What do you want to play? I don't know. What's your favorite fantasy character from a movie? It's like, well, it's not like that, but it's he's like, I want to play like Braveheart. It's like, here you go. It's like congratulations, you're from Glantry. Vaults of Pan. Let me see, Deploribus Rex. The Vaults of Pan, the Threshold magazines, they're usually spot on. For quality, they are very spot on. Because it's made by people that are volunteering their time to write this stuff. They're not getting paid for it. They're not getting reimbursed, and the quality's top notch usually. I wish the guys that did the new Ravenloft book had delved a little bit too into it. I can't fault somebody for making a free book, but if some of the art they chose was a little iffy because they were using real life historical people, and if you need a fantasy equivalent of a 15th century or 14th century noble, there's a lot more pieces of art than just Henry VIII. Yeah. Let me see. So that's something that I think it's something that also I think Wizards should have done, but I can't fault them for it. Was I think if they could have done Greyhawk, they should have based it off of Game of Thrones, and then we all saw what happened to Game of Thrones. So maybe them not basing it off of Game of Thrones was actually fortuitous. Like and there's also some high-tech stuff if you have power armor. You got the mechs, you've got the adapters, you've got quite a few of the lost fantasy tech. Yeah, it would be kind of funny to watch 5th edition go from an advanced version to a basic version, and then say, okay, here's for the people that want to play complicated games, and here's for the people that just want to get out swords and stab stuff. Because 5th edition really, from what I saw with the playtest, not a lot of stuff that people wanted in the playtest got put in there. And I understand that there was something with Mike Merles and him leaving, and I don't know about the politics, nor do I care about the politics. It's like I think it's in good hands with Ray Winninger, but I'm just worried about how Hasbro does it. Because Hasbro wants marketing. It's like merchandising, where the real money's made. And it's like Dungeons and Dragons, the flamethrower. Good Lord, I'd be first in line for that. Let me see. Saint Najora of the Zodiac Braves. Mr. Welch, what do you think about making Barovia Ravenloft a part of Trollodar before it got pulled into the demiplane of Dread? You probably have a better... it's not a bad idea, but Moldavia in Glantry is pretty much Barovia with a less cliche boss, and that's you'll get a lot more overlap there. Let me see, Moonring XD. Have you played Elden Ring yet? No, I'm not a big fan of those games. Yeah, my wife tried it. She gave up at what level, honey? 20. She gave up at level 20. It was a little too hard for her. I don't have a interest in those kind of games. I'm currently playing Bomber Crew because it's fun, it's addictive, and it's free on Steam right now. Resource management. Yeah, but I'm also playing. I'm doing another run through of The Witcher 3 and Fallout. I do Fallout 4 and stuff like that. Let me see. Yeah, let me see. Kurt Thomas, not gonna lie, Hasbro makes more from D&D paraphernalia on the books. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that we're gonna have like the flood of 80s. I mean, what was it? The last video was like, and then we're gonna have these steel and stick picture things that you can put on stuff. It's like, yeah, I remember in the 80s it was called D&D Shrinky Danks. I love those things. It's like, let me see. The Rasslin Theater. What is the Mystara equivalent of the Balkans? That would be Karamikos, formerly Trollodara, which is very obviously based on Serbia. Let me see. Dean Powell. Maybe Hasbro should make a D&D Tactics so they can sell for video games and minis. I think they are. I think they're coming out with the Ravenloft or the Dragonlance Wars coming out. And I think that was one of the things they were doing. Let me see. Birthright, let me see. Bobby Morris, could Birthright Tactics game work? Yeah, but Birthright was less about, it was more about high-level intrigue more than combat. Granted, it had a lot of close combat. But Greyhawk would be more of the, let's all start a major war. Let me see. Notorious Bin 1. With how popular 3D printers are becoming, it would be better making STL files and injecting your own plastic. Yeah, the technology on 3rd edition or 3D printers is rapidly changing the market in the game world, probably faster than anybody can adapt to. Let me see. Michael Finn. How about sci-fi games in general? With our current technology kind of veering away from what, say, classic Shadowrun predicted, can a decent sci-fi game be made that's not post-apocalypse? Yes, absolutely. Just take everything and step it up, and I guess listen to some of the people that are like projecting how things are going to look based on how things are going with was it Binkoff's Battlegrounds, the guy that 2 years ago predicted what was going to happen in the Ukraine, scarily precisely. And there's people like that that can tell you what it's going to be like and how you can handle it. Caliban, Mr. Welch, did Mystara have an area that was the Central African cultures? Yavdalum, but Yavdalum was mostly fantasy. It wasn't based on any actual African culture because it had such a fantasy theme. There's a lot of all of the Central African cultures. Not many of them actually. I don't think any of them actually use diviners and prophets to predict the future to see how their government's going. I was working on putting up a known world-sized setting into Eastern Scothar. I've got so many projects I'm having. That's something that's more than just one person can handle. But yeah, an African-style Mystara there was just too many ideas and so many things to do. Moonring XD, I have not played Stellaris. Daniel K, Soul Crystals and Radiance Link. Oh yeah, that's in the, they are very much linked. That is in the Shadow Elf book, where the Soul Crystals are just basically crystals that are holding up the Radiance. Let me see. Let's go down. Let me see. Padar Rune, the continent of the east of Brunei and Alphasia has settings based on Africa. That was me. I was the one that based them on Africa because I was like, okay, we've got only one area where there's like 15 nations crammed together. It was like, what if we took that, switched out the European style stuff and replaced it with Africa with some fantasy elements, and stole the Zulus, the Watabi people. I think it was the Dogon people, the Great Zimbabwe, a random fantasy African nation that I found it barely mentioned in a book about ancient Rome, where they thought there was this kingdom below Ethiopia that was populated by like 7 foot tall African gods and goddesses. Let me see. William Silva, ever tried Axe Adventure Conquer Kingdoms? Have not heard of that one. Bobby Morris, what faction of the Mystara is the most delusional? Which faction? Probably the Iron Ring, for thinking that they were not going to get noticed and stepped on by somebody bigger. Yeah. Teutonic Atheist, why yield Union Hat? Because it was on sale. That's actually the answer that explains a lot of my life. That explains why I got into Mystara. It was on sale. Phoenix the Hound, here's a question. Since there have been drips and drabs of whatever WotC is going to do with 5.5 or 6.8, any bets on them trying to dip their toe back into Mystara in an official way? Oh God, no. No, because people on Twitter are going to go screaming because they didn't have somebody that was representing that particular people, usually them, didn't get hired to write the job, or didn't get hired to write the book, and therefore the book's problematic. And I've seen that happen too many times. And when you hire somebody based on who they are rather than what they can do, or say maybe what they are rather than what they can do, then you end up with crap product. And I've seen that far too often, where you got to hire based on what people can do. Show me what you've done. Don't tell me like, well, you should hire somebody like me because I represent that culture. It's like, okay. He's like, my grandmother is only 3 generations removed from the Netherlands. You are not hiring me to write anything about the Dutch people because I'm not the best at it. Hire, if some guy from, Kazakhstan knows everything there is to know about Texas, and he wants to write a book on Texas, let him. At least then I'll be entertained because it'll be somebody that enjoys what he's writing about and is going to know what he's writing about. Yeah, let me see. St. Ajwara, the Zodiac Brave. I'd love to exchange notes on you on the African thing because a friend told me about a TikTok thing that got appropriated in the best possible way. Well, you take... all I did was take an existing nation and change them slightly with fantasy elements. And that's something that that's how Mystara works. Let me see. Jason Italiano, where can I send books to you? You can contact me through my email. It's on the About section on me, and then we can work it out privately. That's how a lot of people do it. It's like I've worked heavily with with writing before and stuff like that. I've got so many people using pen names. I don't know who they are or what they are until I meet them in person. But as long as what they're writing works out, I don't care. I don't care if it's Muffy the cat walking on the keyboard randomly. Like, it does complicate things legally, but if a cat can give me good gaming product, I'll pay him in a Fancy Feast. Let me see if Charlotte Williams, somebody actually made your Frankenstein edition of D&D. Would you play it? Would it be mad they didn't credit with you? Yeah, I'd play it. And if they didn't credit me, I'm surprised somebody already hasn't done it already. Most of the clones are people chopping up existing games, anyways. And somebody needs to do it. You can't just keep cloning the same thing over and over again. You got to if you don't change it, it stagnates. And we've all played first edition, so if you're just going to make a clone of first edition, why don't we just play first edition? All the books are still in print, thanks to DM's Guild. Let me see. Moonring XD, do you think Karatur will be redone in 5e? If it does, it will not resemble anything we remember or love about Karatur. that was again, they wrote Oriental Adventures and that stuff back when Kung Fu Theater with Bruce Lee was all over Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon television, and that's what they wanted to capture, and that's what they did. Who needs a person from a person when all people want is an open shirt and a bird of prey on their shoulder? Yes, but the bird of prey is a mandatory, but it also the length of the beard changes from culture to culture. When I asked the people about that, the American Indian guys are like, he has to be clean shaven with massive cheekbones and an eagle, while the Arabs prefer a full beard, not too long but not too short, and they like a falcon. Let me see. The Savage Padar Ruin, the Savage Coast. I never liked the cursed stuff or the firearms in the Mystara campaign. What would you reckon to be a good substitute? Well, if you strip out the red curse and the firearms, you've got colonial Spain and Portugal, and you could probably do something like Mystara, though they don't have a Native American reference or equivalent there. But yeah, Zorro would be good. That would be that would be the best thing you could probably do for that. Let me see. IG Commissar Jake. If you had the choice to play a clone, which one would you play, and what's your experience with it? The clone I played most recently was oh god, I played it with the Black Pants Legion, and we had technical issues. It was a clone of First Edition, and it reminded me so much of First Edition. I was wondering why we weren't playing First Edition. Because that's the thing is, cloning a system and just taking the system and changing it. I'm not a fan of clones. If you're going to change something, you have to change it radically to make it so much better, or else you're just standing on somebody else's shoulders. Let me see. Sean McDaniels. My favorite setting on the older days is Al Qadim. Should I ever give up seeing WotC publish official 5e content for Al Qadim? Oh yeah. Unless they go out and get somebody that is going to basically make their game world and just stamp Al Qadim on it. IG Commissar Jake. Yes, that was the one CJ was running. God, I'm just blanking on the name. I played a cleric of beer. Like everything. Hello, doggies. Hold on just a second, everybody. I have doggos. Somebody's at the front door. Silencio. There's no one here. Shut up. Hold on just a second. I got misbehaving dogs. Come on, doggo. Somebody's got a backhoe. He ran away. He was outside and ran right back in. Never work with children or dogs. Oh, it's always a small dog. Where did I lose you? What did I lose? Okay. Shush! Gott in Himmel. Yeah, let me see. Oh. No, we got somebody was moving in some equipment across the street, and the dogs assumed that they're coming here to kill us. They assume that no matter what. Okay, where was I? Because now I'm just kind of... Yeah. Yeah, fortunately the Hounds of Tyndall still go for the fake throw every time. I have played Pugmire. It was interesting. It was a... we had fun. I don't know if we play again, but we had fun. Ironcaster, Mr. Welch started picking up some of the prints on demand for Mystara and got Etrigan and Yalarum. Yeah, the Yalarum book was pretty much fill in the blank. There was, I don't want to say it was D&D Mad Libs, but they didn't know how to approach the book, so they said, all right, we're going to give you the framework for the nation, but you're going to fill in all the blanks. That's why there's nothing really, there's no characters named, the major cities aren't labeled or given any description or whatever. And then the story behind Etrigan was it was 90 days from concept to publication, which is ludicrous. There's a reason why that's considered the worst of the Gazetteers. Let me see. That's also one of the reasons why when I was flushed in by Harvey, I completely rewrote the book with the help of a few friends. Let me see. Deploribus Rex. Do you use Hollow World material much? I've played in it. My players don't usually like it. It's hard to get people to play Bronze Age D&D, which is what Hollow World usually is. Moonrain XD. Do I think the Radiant Citadel will be any good? I think it will be an anthology. I think it will have 2 or 3 things that are good and worthy of merit. I think it's going to have 2 or 3 things that we're going to be like, why? And everything else is going to be okay. But that's every anthology. You cram everything in. There's going to be everything's going to get compared off of each other, and the good stuff's going to get called out, and the bad stuff's going to be, called. People are going to complain about it. Nobody's going to talk about the stuff in the middle. God, I tell you how many poetry anthologies I've had to read through. Even the good anthologies that I've got, like that I've read with Robert Chambers, The King in Yellow, classic cosmic horror. It's like it's an anthology, and the back half of that book is he ran out of ideas, so he just started retelling historical dramas, and 2 of them were the same damn story from a different point of view. Let me see, Michael Finn. With your extensive work on Mystara, who do you think would work as the poster boy to get all the teenagers into it? Drizzt and his Panther got Forgotten Realms noticed by the teens, after all. That'd be a good one, because there's so many. I would go with Morgan Ironwolf. You'd have to do something about her hair, because that's way too big, and that's the first thing people notice is her hair is too large. And trying to find an artist to draw 80s hair. But yeah, she's got a legend about her, but there's no personality that was assigned to her. So you can make that the example. Kind of like Red Sonja, but with more clothes and, well, also a little bit more pokies. Let me see. Francesco Vassallo, Bronze Age D&D, like mazes and minotaurs. Ancient Aztecs, ancient Egyptians, and ancient Greeks crammed together. It's a nice concept, but I've never seen anybody actually get too far into it, because stuff like that doesn't do, especially with the low magic. Drizzt actually was a decent character to start with. He was unique. He was different. Nobody's seen anything like it, and then they just went to the well too many times with him, and that's what killed him. We just got sick of it. Let me see. Trying to catch up. Yeah, if you're going to do a Hollow World campaign, I highly recommend playing somebody from the Lighthouse, so not everybody has to hate. Not everybody is immediately at each other's throats. Let me see. Mike Harrison, on the topic of Forgotten Realms, how would you rewrite it or redevelop it? Without massive retcons after the Spell Plague, because that kind of was the corner they painted themselves into. You don't have to rewrite or redevelop, but let's focus on some areas away from the Sword Ghost, and just talk about the Dale Lands again, talk about the Moon Sea, talk about stuff like that. Show us other parts of the world that people liked. Let me see. See, let me see. If you would make your old party from the figurehead characters of Mystara, yeah. The problem is with Keegan and Morgan and Halverick and Ogren and all of them, like you guys only seen the art. You didn't, I'd have to retell all the stories, and I'd have to retell all the stories from memory because they're 35 years old at this point. Though I was told I do need to make stat out Skeksis' hat, the one with all the tools attached to the top of it. So yeah, I mean, if they wanted to like retell their stories, they're easy characters, but it's not a classic party. There's the cleric only showed up so many times. The thief was only there because so many times. We didn't have there was no paladins, there was no rangers, traditional. And that's the thing is, you'd have to make them work, but it would be the way they interacted with each other. I'll probably see if I can get Rubus to do that because I've got to. Well, this is what I was doing this because I'm trying to get money for Rubus. Yeah. Let me see. Tori's been in the Dark Elves and D&D. The problem is, the Dark Elves aren't in most settings. They're in 3 of the 7 old school settings. They're in 3 of them. They started off in Greyhawk. In Greyhawk, they were scary. Let me see. Jeff Westcamp, do you think the Moonshale Isles is just an idealized version of the Irish Isles? It was a version of them, yeah. They changed originally, yes, and they slightly changed it. Richard Stevens, did you ever read or play through the Night Below campaign box set? My wife has it. I think I've read it a long time ago. I don't really remember a lot about it, other than it was okay. But yeah, okay. Let me see. Yeah, the Dark Elves only had. They started off in Greyhawk, where they were big and scary, and they were the boogeyman. And then Ed Greenwood came along and said, "Hey, I'm going to make this my setting." It's like, and I'm just going to take everything from Greyhawk. I'm going to copy Gary's notes and just change things. Let me see. Teutonic Atheist. Which dwarves are the best dwarves? Thank you, Forever DM. Let me see. Which dwarves are the best dwarves? For Mystara, I love the Modrig's Warg. Insane, twisted, and cursed. Let me see. Though there's hardly anything on them. But yeah, I completely lost that question. It just popped up. Hold on just a second. Let me see. Moonring XD, are there any underground humans in Mystara? Apart from the millions of people living in the Hollow World? Not really. See, let me see. Yeah, the drow waifus. Let me see. But yeah, so Eberron intentionally threw every race on their ear. So they say, hey, we've got our drow, but they live above ground and they worship like giants and scorpions and stuff. Okay. Yeah, I have to, IG Commissar Jake. Yeah, the Chaos Dwarves from Fantasy, but I do love me some Derizar. Curtis Thompson, didn't they make drow good now? Yes, and they made them everywhere. That was the one thing in, was that the Dragon Heist, where I think you could run across like 50 drow in this city, which were hey, we're a super rare. Thank you, Curtis. We are a super rare race, and this is where we hang out every Friday. Then they have to do the when I see drow on the surface, I expect them to like snapping like the sharks in the jets. Yeah, everybody loves the Chaos Dwarf hats. There's actually a guy that put out a knit pattern so you can knit yourself a Chaos Dwarf hat. If I ever had the money, I'd pay for it, but it's not an urgent thing. And yeah, but Dragonlance doesn't have Dark Elves. They tried to introduce a Dark Elf into Dragonlance, and Margaret Weiss angrily told them no, it wasn't in the game world. Mystara's got the Shadow Elves, which oh, see, they've got no, they don't. Yeah, Eberron was very much the pulp setting. It was absolutely the pulp setting, and they even gave you stunt points. Yeah, the thing with Drow, especially with the Greyhawk Drow, they're like the shark in Jaws or the alien from Alien. Like the less you see, the more sinister they become. Like the shark in Jaws, I think, was only on screen for 5 minutes total. The alien was, again, like less than 15 minutes of screen time, if that. They didn't show it very much, so it became scary because your brain fills in the rest. Like the original Drow were, yeah. Let me see. Sean Vieira, everyone do not copy Gary Gygax's Greyhawk Forgotten Realms. That was TSR pushing things. Yeah, but when they tried to adapt it so that you would have to use the same book, but it gave the reputation of the Forgotten Realms borging everything from everything else. And since it's Forgotten Realms, it's automatically attributed to Ed, even if he had nothing to do with it. Yeah, the less you show of your monster, the more scary your monster becomes. The last thing you need is to have the monster on screen all the time, because then it stops being scary. Then they start making plushie dolls out of it. Yeah, and Caliban, the shark kept breaking down during the filming. The reason why it was shown so little. Yes, it was actually supposed to have a much larger part. And Spielberg later says, like, that shark breaking down was the best thing that could have happened for this movie. Yeah, the Daniel, let me see, Jeff Westcamp, the Dark Elves and Dragonlance are not a separate subterranean subrace. Yeah, that's what she told them. But it was the way it was written originally when they were first mentioned. It was kind of ambiguous, and she had to clarify that ambiguity. Let me see. Daniel K. Schottenelf is the closest to Drow, and it's not even a copycat. No, Schottenelf are kind of like photo-negative Drows, to the point where even if they go outside, they catch fire if they go outside. They're like vampires, but are set to smolder instead of burn. And that was. And then you have the cursed man scorpions, which have the similar curse from the Savage Coast, and they can't even go outside in heavy clothing because it's being under the sun is their curse. Good old-fashioned sunlight and burning things. But the original Drow were. Yeah, the original Drow were actually alabaster white. The first module that they appeared in, at least one of the first editions, they were like pale skin, with curly hair. And when they put those on the module, it looked terrible. It absolutely looked awful because it was just like, okay, so. We've got a white background, and then we've got somebody that's also completely white, and and it didn't look good. So yeah, the original Drow colors were like black hair, white skin, super pale, like alabaster skin, and dude, we got the ones we got because it was just for the simple sake of for artistic reasons. So they did that. But yeah, that's D&D is so tied with the Drow. I don't think that any setting that they will have, they will always be a major point. Yeah, and then, but that's the problem with you're trying to make them the boogeyman, but you're making them so common. And that was. They've lost their luster. They've lost their charm. They're no longer the hot, new, happening thing. Now it's the tieflings with their inability to actually wear a shirt for some reason. And the fact that their skin color is whatever crayon you pull out of the pack. The 64 color pack. Maybe the 128 color pack. I've seen a lot of tieflings. Uh, a race of pale underground ginger, so like the northern the Scottish. And then that's Wizards. TSR had the problem with that, and thank you, Saint Ajora. In Dark, let me see, Mana Ray of Hope 23. There are no Drow in Dark Sun. There's not much in Dark Sun. Everything's dead. Yeah, the Drow originally in first edition, when they came out with the rules for Drow, they were a little bit overpowered. Then second edition, they confirmed that they were overpowered, where the rules for the Drow in the Complete Book of Elves was 8 paragraphs. Yes, you had a 20. You got all these super bonuses, and you had the sunlight penalty, and you also took a 20% XP penalty. But if you were playing a cleric, which had a massive super power, or you had your super fast XP chart, it wasn't much of a penalty. And if you were playing a cleric, you get all these bonus spells anyway, so you were like a fighter with a lot more abilities. Let me see. Peter Ruin, here's a question. How much would the rank and file elf and Mystara know of the Shadow Elves? Being so long-lived, would they know of the Great Rain of Fire? All the elves are at least 5 generations removed from the Great Rain of Fire. Most of the elves weren't around Blackmoor when the Great Rain of Fire went off. They knew it happened, but all the elves that were there are dead, were blowed up. Only the Alfheim elves really have any contact with the Shadow Elves, because the Shadow Elves, they basically everybody else thinks they're extinct. The world blew up, their cousins went away, they never saw their cousins again, everybody else died, pretty sure the cousins died too. So outside of the Alfheim elves, pretty much nobody knows who the Shadow Elves are. Yeah, the Caliban, the Drow had to go below ground after a while or they would lose their powers. But yeah, there's a reason why the guy that wrote the Complete Book of Elves for 2nd edition had to later apologize, because he said, hey, that was my first book, and I have no idea. Sean Vieira, unfortunately the Tieflings now have the same look due to the lawyers. WotC was told they need a standard look to be able to trademark or copyright. Well, that sucks. Because the Dieterlisi Tieflings were way better. Granted, Dieterlisi as an artist is like, originally I didn't like his art for Planescape because it was too alien, but it grew on me. Moonring XD, what do you think of Sea Elves, Aquatic Elves, by the way? I like them a lot in Elder Scrolls. As far as the elves go, it's like they do have the problem if you're restricting them underwater. You're kind of you've changed how you can play the game. It's good for a diversion, but you can't really play with them above ground, or obviously above ground, but out of the water. Let me see. Yeah, the Tieflings in Planescape did not have a set appearance. That was their thing, is they were chaos. They were people touched by the lower planes, and then chaos, not so much evil, but the chaos twisted them. So they all had a different appearance. Some of them had grasshopper legs. Some of them, had the horns. Some of them had. There was one lady that was a Tiefling. Her shadow was completely animated and did not do what she did. And that was the only thing that did not look human on her, was her shadow would walk around. Yeah, Dieterlisi was an art. Him and Brahm. They were art that I saw originally, and it's like kind of okay, but later on I grew to appreciate it. Then that's something I wish that. Okay, speaking of the specific artists. That is something I wish that Wizards would do, was to find an artist for a setting and stick with that artist. Because that was something that TSR mastered. Everything was, every setting had a particular artist that was for that setting. Stephen Fabian did Ravenloft. Jim Holloway, Spelljammer. Dieterlisi, Planescape. Brahm had Dark Sun. Mystara had Caldwell and Elmore, so did Greyhawk. But Greyhawk and Darkstone also had a lot of Parkinson. You could pick up any D&D book, flip open to a page, see the art, know exactly by the artist what you were looking at, and that was a beautiful one. Let me see, Stephen Radlett. In your opinion, what is your opinion on every villain such as Ariel and Descent or Tasha and given a redemption arc these days? Only certain villains should get a redemption arc if it's built into their story. Some villains don't deserve one. Some villains don't want one. If they have a tragic background, yeah, go for it. Maybe you can redeem them. If they're doing it because it's fun, no. Again, you want to pace your stories out. You don't want to tell the same story over and over again. You can't. You can only read so many romances before it's like, all right, give me something different. If every villain gets a redemption arc, you're not getting. The players are going to start realizing what the cliches are, and they're going to start second guessing, or they're going to start guessing ahead of time what the answers are. Let me see. So the answer is case-by-case basis. Let me see. Victor D20. What would you say the Master of Hool has epic boons in 5th edition? And with the levels beyond 20, would you say he's 30th level, closer to 36 with his favor with Bosgadon? Yeah, in 5th edition, the Master of Hool probably has multiple epic boons. He's probably not even epic level. He's never been above 20th level. I don't think he was even in when he snuffed it in Red Arrow Black Shield. He was not above 20th level, but he dies and he comes back. So they keep bringing him back. I'd probably put him about level 15 or 16. Let me see. Yes, Brom, he's our guy. Yeah. Let me see. Pedal Ruin. 5 generations isn't that far removed. That's my point. What kind of depth of knowledge would Johnny Leafblower from Alfheim know of Blackmoor? Or would they just know that there was a cataclysm? They would just know there's a cataclysm in the past, because there's a, my great-great-great-great-grandpa lived in a time where these guys about 1,000 miles away blew themselves up. Don't be those guys. The problem is nothing remained of Blackmoor when it went away. And the people that weren't there for a reason, because they didn't like what Blackmoor was doing, so they avoided them. Let me see. Notorious Ben, it's Brom without the H. Let me see. Moonring XD. Forgotten Realms art was, I think that was originally Parkinson, and then they expanded out in 2nd edition, because 2nd edition went heavily into Forgotten Realms. Let me see. Yeah. Saint Ajor of the Zodiac Brave. 5th edition art has... Okay, Saint Ajor of the Zodiac Brave. 5th edition art is general rule. The thing with 5th edition art that I don't like is it's very formulaic. I didn't even notice it until somebody pointed out that it's rare to see women in anything other than head-to-toe gowns. And it was like, yeah, so we were like flipping through there, and it was like 73 pictures of individuals you could identify as a woman rather than just somebody from the back that was blacklit, like humanoid figure. And yeah, the clothing style, the poses, the fights. Well, the fights rarely look like they're actually in danger. They're more like, hey, look, we're having a fight. Tell me when to cut, director. It's all the same. Let me see. Robert Gugliardi. I'm butchering that name. Did you ever play First Edition RuneQuest? I love the Trolls in the World. Yes, I did. I played 2 games. The first one I played a duck because I could. And then I was playing a thief. And then when you had to roll for size, I rolled a natural 18. So I was playing Andre the Giant, the sneak thief. He had the greatest pickpocket. Just pick them up, turn them upside down, and shake them until all the money fell out. Neither of the games went very long. Let me see, Michael. Michael Finn. Half of the kids playing tabletop in person nowadays do it from their phone instead of paper. Should this fact be leveraged, taken advantage of, perhaps? Yeah, because the technology is changing. Though electronic dice rollers still don't work very well. But Yeah, you have to adapt or die, and the electronics is going on. The electronic revolution that's going on in D&D is it's going to change the game whether we want to or not. That we can't deny that. Let me see. The fat halflings. Craig Lovelace, I miss the fat halflings. They were the best. Yeah, anything that doesn't have hydroencephalitis, yeah, that's good. I'm not really sure what was going on. But then they had the sexy halflings in 3rd edition. Yeah. Bobby Morse, yes, RuneQuest had ducks. Let me see. Isaac Stanley, have you looked at Gardbeardia Vale's Writer's RPG? No, I've heard about it, but I actually haven't seen a copy. Yeah, Big Blue, that's the thing with D&D 5e. People are never in danger. I wish players would at least pretend they're in danger instead of doing superheroic quips all the time. Depends on what kind of game you're playing. I've been working on another video about the different styles of play, and one of them is Gonzo, where everybody is overpowered. Everyone is doing ridiculously powerful things. And that's not, if you want to have fun that way, yeah, but everybody's got to be on the same page. When we were doing the Death Watch campaign, and the one guy is like in Terminator armor, and everybody's asking, how do you want to deploy? Your options are, you can teleport, you can do the drop pod, you can have the Thunderhawk. He's like, I'm going to deploy with the elbow drop. What? Yeah, Terminator power armor elbow drop from orbit. Let's go. Okay. And we had a blast. Like, doing overpowered stuff because it's fun can be a good way to let off steam. Not all games are capable of it, but back in the day, it was called Monty Hall, but that's not a name I hear describing games very much anymore. Back when everything got away. Let me see. Jeff Westcamp, what do you think of John Norman's Gore novels? How many heads would you roll to WotC if you read them? My mom actually bought me some Gore novels a long time ago, and she didn't realize what they were about. She thought they were Conan. Got some strange people that like Gore. And yeah, I think all the heads would explode at WotC if they read them. But I think the people at WotC are very aware of the Gore novels with the sexual slavery and stuff like that. The enjoyable sexual slavery. Let me change that. Let me see. Axe of the Head. A bit of the tangent with the Deadlands Call of Cthulhu Cross. Was it any good, or it was exactly wrong with the punny title? Actually, it was called Adios Amigo, and it was a little forced to play, but it wasn't bad. It was a lot better than Night Train, which was. Oh, I'm sorry. Did we accidentally put 20 vampires in that train car you had to go into? That's a bit much, isn't it? Yes, I'll take Migos over 20 Nosferatu in a single vampire car, or in a single train car. That's yeah, it's a bit much. Overpowered. Are we talking about rest? I'm talking about any game where you can play something that's absolutely overpowered, where the DM hands out experience like magic, or like it's candy, because it's. If you're going to play a Gonzo game, everybody's got to be super powered, and that's what they want to do. Is they want to play all the superpowers, and it can be fun. It's like when you're just like leveling city blocks. When you're playing kaiju or kaiju level characters, sometimes you just got to blow up Tokyo. Bobby Morris, what would be the best way to befriend a Lupin from Mystara? 2 ways. First off, show them loyalty, and second off, scratches behind the ear. Let me see Sean Vieira, to me, why the 5th edition is not deadly is the adventure is designed for 4 PCs. You have more than it's painful to rebalance. The problem with one of the biggest problems with Wizards of the Coast, which everyone will gladly point out, is the challenge rating system is beyond messed up. Nobody knows how it's supposed to work. Nobody can get it to work. Because I've said, okay, well, here's 3 ogres, and I throw 3 ogres at a party, and it's supposed to be an even fight, and the 3 ogres get butchered. 36 goblins, which is supposed to be heavily in the party's favor, and that was damn near a TPK with goblins with 1d6 bows. Yeah, that was That was pretty bad. And that was the last time I tried to use challenge rating. Let me see. Yeah, there's a lot of talking about bogging down the game with Big Blue. It really depends on your players. I've got, like I have veteran players that we got through Candlekeep Mysteries in about a week because they all knew what they were doing. It's the people that don't know that aren't familiar with the rules, that aren't familiar with the tactics. The Dragon Age RPG had cheat sheets that you could give to every player. They gave them all of their abilities, and that was beautiful. It was like, why don't more people do that? Let me see. So, out of interest, excluding Mystara, what is the next favorite D&D setting, and what setting would you say is the worst or has the most wasted potential? I'd probably have to say, well, they're both Ravenloft. The original Ravenloft Domains of Dread was a love letter to the old Hammer films and the other stuff, and then the new Ravenloft is just scary stories to tell in the dark. It's just not. I don't get a sense of creepiness from the new guys. It's like you could have had everything from barely scary monsters to, oh my god, it's the Thing, and they didn't do that. They were promising that with Rime of the Frost Maiden. It's like, this is just a nighttime adventure in Canada, probably North Canada, and I never saw that. Let me see. Yeah, let me see. Talking about the action economy. The action economy in 5th edition is how many actions do you get around compared to the monsters. So the more actions you have, the better you are. And you have to balance how many actions the players can do and what they can do in those actions compared to what the monsters can do with their actions. Okay, Stephen Radlett, thank you. It was really, really well done. And it's going to be better because in a few weeks I will be releasing, I guess, 2.0 because I fixed some stuff, and mostly technical stuff, but I also I fixed some of the subclasses, and it'll be a lot cleaner. I did that first one entirely by myself without much help, just giving people money for art, and taught myself how to write it, or how to do everything on that book myself. Yeah. Tina Jor of the Zodiac Braids. Ever played Darkest Dungeon? I have not played Darkest Dungeon. Yeah. And that was one thing. And some of the rules for 5th edition really have obvious fixes, but nobody's ever done them. Like the polymorph. It's like, okay, you can't change something with a polymorph more than 2 size categories. Problem solved. It's like, okay, well, the fairy's going to turn into a T-Rex. Okay, nope. You can turn into you're a tiny creature, you can turn into a man-sized creature. If you're a man-sized creature, you can go large, huge. So you can go to a huge size, or you can turn into a tiny creature. Yeah, one of the biggest problems that the 5th edition has is hyper initiative. If you can get the party to always go first, they're going to butcher anything that you throw at them. Let me see. Jeff Westcamp, what self-publishing program did you use to create the Mystara Player's Guide? I used Zara, Z-A-R-A. I was originally using Lucid, but I got tired of paying a rental fee for software, so I switched to that. Zara is not bad, but it can't make tables. Okay, just a fair warning if you do that. I recommend it, but it cannot make tables. So if we're trying to make tables for the calendars to fix those, which is one of the 3 glaring things we have left, we have to do it from a second party software program, and then cut and paste it over. Yeah, that was. I recommend getting a layout. Somebody who can do layout for you, but I didn't, so I did it myself. Yeah, Zara with an X. Yeah, and 5th edition. Hold on, I'll type it in. There you go. It's like $60. Yeah, the Mystara Player's Guide. Yes, Deploribus Rex. You have a Mystara's Player Guide product. If you look up Mystara Player's Guide in Google, it will take you straight to it. And I also rewrote the Etrugan Gazetteer, but that is for BECMI or rule. Actually, it's for the Rules Cyclopedia. Let me see, and that's available on the vaults. Let me see. Hold on, I got a lot of questions about the Mystara Guides product. Let me see. Can you make tables as images? That's what I did, and unfortunately, I made them with Lucid, and they looked terrible. We're trying to do it with Excel, but I don't have the skills for that, so I'm having somebody else work on that. Jeff, what program did you use for the tables? I used Lucid. They weren't very good. And there was a lot of problems. All it was rookie mistakes. I didn't set the bleed right, so I went back and fixed that. I moved all that legalese that I was required to put on there to the back, which required me to change 2,000 numbers individually, because I changed all the page. Every page that referenced another page got moved up by 1. I have Open Office Ironcaster, but I haven't. I've been putting off the changing the tables for later because there were more important issues in that book to fix. The tables were going to be the last thing I was doing, but they are on the list, and that list is rapidly getting short. Let me see. Rules. Just wondering, do you have any more rules compatible projects down the road? I have a few, but right now I'm working on the Dungeon Master's Guide, which is going slowly because it's a lot of just writing. There's not I haven't gotten to the actual rules part. Thank you, Get Jadis. And then I'm fixing the player's guide to get it, because just another example with my unhealthy obsession with absolute flawlessness. Well, Jason Italiano, cheat sheets are different from player's guides because the character sheets are that's where you put all the stuff out there, but it's like Death Watch where you start with 17 special rules for your character. So you have all the things that your character can do so they don't forget. Putting the option what the rules are in a simple format for people, especially for new players, is like, okay, on your turn you can pick one of these 10 things to do. Lucky Omen, I did have an editor go through there. I had some Italian guys that just a minor thought. The book has been translated into Italian. They're waiting for the final things to change the book, and then the Italian PDF and POD should be going up as soon as we can. Like I said, the one thing holding it back is once Rubus gets that art, I've got to pay him for the rest of the book art so we can get started. And you guys know how the economy's going. It's just trying to get everything, trying to get stuff done. And then YouTube, for whatever reason, has decided to, all the money that they were paying us, they ain't paying us that much anymore. I don't know what I'm doing wrong to piss them people off. Let me see. Pedar Rune, why is Mystara so popular in Italy, or it seems to be? Because there's a long story behind that, and I will try to summarize. TSR, the people that were making the red basic box set, said, you know what would be great? What if we translated this box set into as many languages as possible and sold it in other countries? And the people that did first edition says, nah, nobody, the other languages nobody's going to buy. Well, they published, I think, 17 languages into the basic red box set. Is translated into 17 languages. I've seen it in Hebrew, and Japanese, and Russian, and a bunch more. And The Italians found it and was like, oh my god, this is D&D. I love D&D. And then they got so when all the settings came out, it was like, okay, we'd like to play D&D. It's like, here's a setting. It's like, okay, we can play Greyhawk. Does it come in Italian? No, it doesn't come in Italian. Well, what about this Mystara setting? Does it come in Italian? Well, yeah, it's for the basic set, so it comes in Italian. Oh, so Mystara is really popular in Europe because it was published in their languages all those years ago, and that's why it's still one of the most popular settings outside the U.S. Haven't seen I have only seen the cover of the Japanese version. Okay, let me see. Sean Vera, any thoughts on Spelljammer returning? Cautious optimism. The original Spelljammer had a lot of problems that people don't remember. This one might fix some of them, but it could also get cringy, depending on how they do it. Jeff Westcamp, if you're planning to do a Mystara manual after you completed the Dungeon Master's Guide, if I somehow can get the money to pay the artists, because I only do things if I can make them awesome. And the Dungeon Master, or the Monster Manual, even if I cut down, there's 300 monsters that I can put in there that haven't been published. If I cut that in half, even at $50 a piece of art, which is a steal for who would be doing it, is still going to be over $10,000. Let me see. Foreign languages brings up a question. Are there any non-English games you've enjoyed? The Schwarze Age, the Dark Eye, which was a German game. I'm passable in Welsh. My German is rusty, and I speak a surprisingly large amount of Urdu. Well, I used to. I knew what Yalla and Bus meant, which means hurry up and stop. It's like I played that. I played Akalari. Yeah, I rolled the R this time, guys. That one you have to really pee into Spanish history to get into. But yeah, the Schwarze Age was a really decent system. Yeah, let me see. Charlotte Alternative, have you tried posting videos on the YouTube alternatives? I've got, if nothing else, they would be archives and backups if the unthinkable happens. I have everything saved. If something goes wrong, I have all the videos. Yeah. A Welsh werewolf involve a lot of spitting, wouldn't it? Probably, with the whole kaki. Let me see. Saint Najor of the Zodiac Bridge. Well, the DM's Guild is being so watsy about crowdfunding. Could we crowdfund and put it? Yes, we could. Which is one of the reasons why I'm doing this. For me to finish the Dungeon Master's Guide, it's going to cost about $2,000, and that's just for art. I will do everything else myself. Then, by their rules, I can't sell that. So I have to put it out for free and then basically take the hat off and pass the hat, which is how I got the money to pay Rubus the first time. Let me see. Spring Hill Jack of the Guardians. Have you played any of the Dark Who RPGs? I played the original one. It was terrible. I haven't played the new ones. Die Ghostfish. How do you keep yourself from looking up? Oh, I mount the camera on the ceiling. Let me see. Just Westcamp. Do the European translator have to look up a lot of terms to their native, translate some of the D&T terms? I don't know. I would imagine so. Yeah. Well, every check I get from YouTube, I put into the Give Rubus More Money fund. He's still got 4 pieces of art left for the book. Yeah, again, it was on sale. Okay, thanks, Dean Powell, for joining us. Let me see, 97. Let me see, Finn, have you ever considered making your book into a digital book with clickable links like a wiki? Yeah, but I don't know how. Let me see, Jeff Western, to do that for a Ravenloft book, what'd you do with? Yes, but Ravenloft is you're allowed to put the Ravenloft book on the DM's Guild, and you're allowed to sell it. Spring Hill Jack of the Guardians, what's your take on 9th? Never played it, unless you're talking about the Numenaria setting, which I wasn't a fan. Yeah, you're allowed to, right now you're allowed to make, you're allowed to sell books for Forgotten Realms, Ravenloft, and Eberron. And that's it. Everything, and, yeah. Pedar Ruin, there's a one-shot RPG called a Welch, Werewolf, and Shanfar Pushquin Gishto Gero Shundabush Shantasilio Gogogok. Yeah, I reviewed it. It was one of my last Mad Musings. Yeah, that was actually part of they actually have a book of them. Yeah, Jason Taliano, YouTube has been unscripted. Yeah, actually, that's the thing is my subscriber count has been constantly growing, but everything else is going down. I've got more people on there. I'm not paying for for fake people. It's all been organic. And that was the that's the thing is, and it's not just me. All my other YouTube friends are telling me the exact same thing. Is all of the number of people watching the videos are going up, but all the everything else is going down. Yeah, Spelljammer will open up on the DM's Guild when they get their book, Sean. Yeah. Let me see. Hello, Scott McLeay. I don't know if that's an I or an L. Let me see. What would I prefer, hexes or square grid for combat? As a follow-up question, are there any games that use neither? There's a lot of games that use there's a lot of games that use theater of the mind. I prefer hexes, though that's harder to make as a game. Yeah. Well, thank you, Pedar. Let me see. Would a shifter and a lupin fight if they ever met? Only a werewolf and a lupin are automatically hostile. Lupin can tell if somebody's a lycanthrope, but they can only tell if they are a werewolf. If I'm okay, Scott McLeay, is it an I or an L? Because is it McKay or McLeay? I'm new to the channel. Where would you have me start for videos? I would go for Mystara. Go watch the. Go start at the beginning because I explain everything. Then go through the all the different world building videos, and then skip to past all the module reviews. Let me see. Saint Ajora, if there's any chance you would be able to snag that Hello Kitty Pew Pew for a fellow American? You can buy it at Walmart. I don't need to snag it from you. It's available at Walmart. My girlfriend from Chicago came down and she brought her best friend who was Japanese, and this was years ago, and she was like, I'm like, okay, since you are my guest and I am your host, where would you like to go? And like, we want to go shoot gun. It's like, okay, I'm not showing up in a stagecoat. I'm not going to be riding, with a boot necessarily. I still want to shoot gun. So yeah, we took her. I was like, okay, my dad's like, I got 3 women here, 2 of them from Japan and 1 of them from Chicago. They never shot a gun. What do you want me to? It's like, can you set something up? It's like, yeah, I got a 22 target rifle. Go get some ammo. And that's when she saw the pink 22 target rifle at the Walmart and wanted me to buy it and ship it to Japan. Let me see. Spring Hill Jack of the. What's my favorite collective or CRPG? Computer RPG? I don't know. I'm still kind of fond of Baldur's Gate 2 because I love me some David Warner voice. You will suffer. You will all suffer. Dr. Necrotic, yes, you can buy a pink 22 Hello Kitty target rifle at Walmart. It was $99.99. Let me see. Have you ever? Let me see. Heard you discussing the Italian interest in Mystara. Have you ever seen the Brancalia, the RPG? I have not. I have not seen that one. Let me see. Sean VR, a lot of, at least there is going to be a couple more settings revisited. Some are betting on Dark Sun due to their monsters starting to show up. My money's on Greyhawk for the. Yeah, Greyhawk only has like 20 or 30 unique monsters to it. Yeah, they squeezed off 1,000 rounds of ammunition. They absolutely squeezed off 1,000 rounds of ammunition. It's like we didn't break out the M1 because that's a oh my god, the M1 is a sweet gun. That is such a sweet gun. Let me see. Ooh, voices. Who would you like to narrate the opening to your Mystara title crawl? Well, if it was a younger David Warner, I would say him. But yeah, Jürgen Prochnow maybe. Oh, that would, yeah, the good German stuff. Let me see. Yeah, and one problem, yeah, let me, Jason, tell you need psychic and survival rules for Dark Zone. That's one problem with 5th edition is the survival rules. Is all you need is a ranger in the party, and survival rules go out the window because they automatically succeed. Rangers are either ridiculously bad at what they're supposed to do or ridiculously good. There's no in between. Yeah, and it's like, and Kyoko, yeah, it was Kyoko, I think was her name, was, Kita, my girlfriend at the time, was going, it's like, I don't want to shoot a gun. And it's like, guns are bad, guns are awful. And it's like, and Kyoko is like, it's okay, you wouldn't be very good at it anyways. And then, hello, Glantry Mage. IG Commissar Jake, what is your thoughts on virtual tabletop systems like Foundry and Roll20? Do you think, yes, I think all the major publishers will start their own in-house versions. I'm not a fan of virtual tabletop systems. People swear by them. In the smaller towns, you have to. It's kind of mandatory. But yeah, I think that's going to be the next RPG brand war. Let me see. Yeah, when my uncle died, he was a World War II veteran, and we get. Let me see. What are Rimfire going for? 1,000 rounds hurts my wallet just thinking about it. Back in the day, it was like, I think we spent $40 for 1,000 rounds because it was like next to nothing for 22. But yeah, yeah. So we got all that. My uncle was a supply sergeant in World War II, and he had all the major weapons of the war, and we got all the weapons and we had them inspected, and then we found out the Japanese Lotus rifle was made of tin. So that one got put aside and has never been fired. I think we donated it to a museum to get rid of all the taxes for a year. Let me see. Actually, and I hate the Browning. I hate the 1911. I am left-handed, and John Moses Browning did not like southpaws. You grab a 1911 with your left hand, and everything's on the other side of the gun. Let me see. Spring Hill Jack. How would you convert the armies of Mystara's various nations in a wargame system? Grab their historical stuff. The different, make them look like fantasy elements of their original stuff, and then always have like one specific unit that was like their fantasy element. Let me see. Dr. Necrotic, Mystara and Wargame would be awesome. They had one. It was called Fantasy Empires. You can get it for free. It's abandonware, but you're going to need one hell of an emulator because it runs way too fast on most computers now. It's an old game. See, Die Ghostfish 10. They were that desperate. There was a 1945 late model Lotus rifle, and all the welds were made out of tin because they were running out of iron. Yeah. It was like I said, the late model guns. If you ever get a Japanese rifle from World War II, you have to get it inspected because late war they were pretty much just nothing but bayonets. Could the Shadow Lord of Denegoth invade the Helden Freehold since they're so busy fighting each other, Ethengar and Narwhal? Yeah, the problem with Victor, the problem with invading the Helden Freeholds is they are so spread out that if you take one city, you're 300 miles away from the next city, and there's nothing to feed an army with from there to the next one. Caliban, DOS old, yes, DOS old. Um, yeah, Jason Italiano. Yes, they make one for lefties, but you have to pay a pretty significant southpaw tax. Let me see. Do I have any sense of what percentage of your subs or the community in general actively playing Mystara games versus watching mostly for the nostalgia value? I have no idea of telling that, unfortunately, Lachlan. Let me see. Manta Ray, how was the master? Shonuff Shogun, he was pretty good. I mean, he wasn't the master. That ended up being Bruce Leroy. Which reminded me of when I was sitting through Ray and the Last Dragon, I realized 80 minutes into the movie that Bruce Leroy's not going to appear in this damn movie. That was a waste of money. Yeah. Yeah, the whole thing about invading the Helden Freeholds, it's a lot like Fallout New Vegas when you talk the Legion guy to death at the end and say, hey, it's like, we're going to invade California. It's like, yeah, the next source of food is 200 miles that way, and you've got 10,000 men. Hey, look, and let me see, a hide user on this channel, report. Yeah, go fuck yourself. Report. Yeah, I got a spammer. Hold on. Report. Unwanted. How do you think we should do this? Break kneecaps. Okay. God, yeah. You have to get to get the break kneecaps. You have to get the extra. You have to pay for the extra YouTube. Yeah. You got to figure like somebody in Google. There's got to be some department in Google which is just like a bunch of large men with metal pipes waiting for somebody to start spamming on somebody's channel. Yeah, and that's one thing. That's one thing about Mystara is, okay, the last book came out in 1995, so almost 30 years ago. So for all of the old people, it's nostalgia. But for all the people that are getting into 5th edition, say, hey, what's this Mystara with all these cool stuff? And it's like, it's brand new to them. It's a setting they're not familiar with, that Wizards doesn't talk about. So I'm introducing something to somebody for the first time ever. And that's something that I wish Wizards would realize, and they probably do, they just don't care, that you know, it might be old for us, but for the kids, it's brand new. Let me see. That would, and that's how I pitch Mystara. It's like, okay, this is a brand new setting. You get, and it's how this is a brand new setting. This is what's selling points. This is why people like it. Okay, so let me see. Belisarius Fitzpingay Palette. Fitzpingay Palette. Given the virulence of the Red Coast, how does the rest of the Mystara ever engage in trading within the region? Because it takes 2 weeks for the curse to take hold. They're pretty clear on that. So the merchants get there, they get the stuff, and they get out, and they do it quick. Yeah. They let me see. Sean Vieira. I just want them to release. They've re-released the trail maps, but it's only on print on demand. Somebody that can do print on demand maps, the first person that can jump in and do that, can write their own money. It can write their own paycheck, because that's something that the Dungeon Master's Guide and RPG or Drive-Thru RPG rather. That's something that they sorely need, is somebody to be able to make the 4x4 maps. Let me see. Spring Hill Jack of the Guardians. Will you ever cover Fantasy Empires as you didn't? I did cover it in the Mystara video games. The Mystara video games. It wasn't a very complex game. You just pick you pick your nation. You build up your army. You invade another nation. That gives you more money, and you can build up more armies. Then you go fight, and depending on which nation you grab, gives you a different army. There was not a lot of thought put into the game. Let me see. I know you reference here and there, but were you a fan of He-Man back in the day? Yeah, I was an 80s kid. I watched a lot of He-Man. Didn't have any of the toys, though. I was more of a Mask man. Because Mask had the coolest theme song. Absolutely. And there's actually somebody that took the Thorfinn's world map and spent $70 and turned it into a shower curtain at Walmart. I didn't realize that was a thing, but there is physical proof that he has a Mystara shower curtain. Let me see. So let me see. Ah, cool. So Mystara is set up in a way to basically. Thank you, Commander Wolf. So Mystara is set up in a way to basically prevent expansion of current kingdoms. Seems everyone has a reason why they can't conquer their neighbor. Usually, yes. The number one answer is mountains, because everybody has to conquer over a mountain. But the other one is not everybody is expansionistic. That's the biggest thing, is that there's just not a lot of people that want to go conquer anybody else. Let me see. Michael Hart. Hart, The City Beneath is a relatively new game from 2020. Have you taken it from? I have never even heard of it to begin with. I'll be honest. Curtis Thompson. The arcade D&D games were really good too, and that's where a lot of people know where Mystara from is from the Japanese art or the Japanese arcade games. Okay, I can't stand anime. That's my darkest secret. I do not like anime. My first anime that I was exposed to when I was in high school was Oroku Sachiduchi, and that has left scars that have never healed. But people know that the anime look, or the Mystara arcade game, that's what most people know Mystara from. And that game is first off, it's one of the best Capcom beat 'em ups ever. And they're still milking it by releasing a new version every so many years. Okay, Man Ray of Hope 23. Sorry, man, who was the master in Mystara? What's his deal and where did he come from? Okay, that I can answer. The master of Mystara is from Hool. He is this evil cleric. He wants to conquer certain people. His big thing is every time he dies, he gets reincarnated. And the nation of Hool goes to pot when he's dead, and when he comes back, he comes back and tries to conquer people. And he's kind of based on the Ayatollah of Iran, not of rock and rolla, but he's got a hard on for Darrican right now. Yep. Let me see. Moonring, where did humans come from lore-wise in Mystara? They were created by a variety of different immortals. Let me see. Miguel Roca, do you have a PDF about the Skothar Nations video made a year or two ago? I can't find it in Pennies. I never made a PDF about it because it's still in the notes stage. It's not in anything I'd want to show to people. It's just, like I said, it's a bunch of concept ideas, but it's for 17 nations. It's barely more than a page, maybe 3 pages now. Let me see. Cameron Gunn, Mario Van Peebles is the master. I don't know who played Bruce Leroy. Tycho, I think it was. Yeah. Let me see. Yeah, I had a roommate that was obsessed with some of the nastiest hentai that they made, and at one point, I had to walk out of the room because I was getting physically ill. And I have been covering someone else's blood on more than one occasion because of my previous profession, you know. And like watching some girl get raped by tentacles and explode and enjoying it. It's like, okay, yeah, no. Let me see. Let me see. The Mighty had the two-faced map of Blanche before in the main city. Yeah, they're from the Gazetteer stuff. Let me see. Dennis Haber. No, the guy that plays Shonuff is dead. He was in Briscoe County Jr. He died of cancer a long time ago. Yeah, I was playing. We were playing Mystara, and like I said, I live in Houston. I live north of NASA. And that was when the people had. You see, what setting had the best maps? Oh, probably Lord of the Rings. Greyhawk actually had some nice map. Had some really nice maps. Let me see. Dear Mr. Welch of Mystara, I love your Mystara lore series, Commander Wolf. My question is, has there ever been a canine or lemur type player nation reaching Civil War tech or any nation of any note? Not in D&D that I know of. If there's if there's another setting that did, I'm not aware of it. Diploraptor. Yeah, when it comes to bad anime hentai, Legend of the Overfiend is kind of like at the top of the list. And I'm pretty sure Bible Black was pretty simple. Let me see. Actually, I have watched Dragon Ball Z Unabridged, which I will find funny. And at Kamikaze Con, there was these guys that did something called Cajun May, which I've never been able to find on YouTube, probably for a lot of legal reasons, where they had taken a copy of Battle of the Planets, or the one with the Hawk people, or the Hawk helmet kids, and redubbed them all with Cajun voice actors. It was glorious. It was absolutely glorious. Let me see. The Moonring XD, do you know any Elder Scrolls lore? I know very little. I've played Skyrim for a while, but it kind of got boring. No, the one thing I remember about Cajun May was the main boss confronting the kids, and it's like, let me tell you what's going to happen right here now. And the main kid's like, no. Let me tell you what's going to about duty. Yo, fatso, tell him what's going to happen here. And it's like, that's right. Ain't nobody say that better on fatso there. I was like, we were like sitting there, like, what inspired you to make this? And the guy looks at me and goes, alcohol. Let me see. Are you familiar with White Wolf's Scarred Land setting for 3rd edition D&D? I really like it. I read it once, and it has been a long time ago, so I don't really remember. It was better than some of the White Wolf stuff that was out there. I remember that, but the White Wolf stuff that was coming out was kind of disappointing. Because White Wolf was trying to recapture the World of Darkness, or trying to move away from the World of Darkness at the same time, and they had replaced everybody. Let me see, who's your favorite Aussie guitar player, Zakk Wylde or Randy Rhoads? You gotta go with Randy, man. He was the guy that was like Blizzard of Oz, Bark at the Moon. He was the guy that helped establish Ozzy as an independent, he helped him break away from Black Sabbath. He's not, you couldn't compare him to Tommy or the rest of the guys over in Black Sabbath, but that was two different styles. Black Sabbath was more bluesy, and Ozzy was going for like almost glam rock at the time. I mean, Zakk Wylde is no slouch, but Randy Rhoads, plus the man died so early, he's got a mythos around him. White Wolf Ravenloft was really nice. Let me see. Victor D20 wins MystaraCon 2022. We're working on it. Yeah. Thank you, The Hills. Let me see. Caliban, they were trying to clean up the World of Darkness because they were trying to get the wider audience. One problem was, and this is a common problem with a lot of game companies, is the people that made it had moved on to other jobs, because headhunting is very common in that industry. And the people that were left were trying to keep on creating a game world that they had nothing to do with the creation of. And they were trying to change it to be something that they wanted to do. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just it's something that happens. Let me see. The Michael Finn, speaking of Ozzy, shouldn't he be immune to COVID from eating that first bat? He should probably be immune to most diseases at this point. He's like, if his immune system can fight off everything that he's put into his body, it's like I don't see anything bringing him low. Let me see. Michael Rocco. Halflings canonically come from Brassol, Devani, and Mystara. They never really said. They never actually said where they came from. They just said they came from the south. And Ed Greenwood wrote the background for the Halflings for Mystara. And granted, they've never really explained anything about Devania. Wireless, what do you think about Exandria setting of Critical Role? It's a little too... Thank you, Jason Italiano. Let me see. Ozzy or Vegni? Ozzy. Let me see. Let me see. What do I think about Exandria, though? Walrus. Not really a fan. Again, I don't like what they've done with Tieflings. I don't like the... it's just... I don't know. What I've read about Critical Role, nothing does anything for me. Nothing at all does anything for me. They're voice actors. They're there to entertain you. If you're entertained, great. But when I sit around the gaming table with my friends, I want to know how everybody's doing. We talk about our kids. We talk about future stuff, and then we want to, like, break things and hurt people. Let me see. Jeff Westcamp. Would Ozzy have a Constitution score of 18 or higher? I'm pretty sure Ozzy's Constitution score is hovering around 24 or 25. Diego said the same thing about Lemmy. Yeah. Lemmy's, but Lemmy died from smoking too much. Lemmy did that to him, Of course, Lemmy just cast off his mortal form, let's be honest. Diploraptor, the Tiefling Empire stuff. Yeah, it's a tad bit generic. The Tiefling Empire stuff, which is based on 4th E lore. I played 4th edition for 3 games and shelved it. That was it. Manta Ray of Hope 23. Will you ever make a Demon the Fallen video? If I can ever get a copy of Demon the Fallen, it's not exactly an easy game to get a hold of. He's fighting evil on another dimension. Yeah. The 4th edition. Well, they were trying to salvage something out of 4th edition because 4th edition was, again, new people writing new stuff. Hello, Quick Save F5. Trick question, Daniel K. Lemmy is God. Yeah. Thank you, Zen Gunman. Let me see. Yeah, that's one thing I wanted to see about Aasimar. I'd like to see them go back to the... Tieflings have evolved into the demon people with the horns and the shirtless guys. But the Aasimar, they don't know what to do with the Aasimar. Let me see. Spring Hill Jack of the Guardians, what's your take on the World of Darkness license engine being opened up? I don't know if it's going to have the same success as D&D. Because the World of Darkness was kind of self-contained, and a lot of the people that played World of Darkness, I really don't want them adding what they thought was a good idea for that campaign. Jeff Westcamp, a lot of people of everywhere hate 4th edition D&D. It just, like I said, it played like a board game, it played like a computer game, and now that people are playing it on the computer as a game, apparently it's good now. Let me see. Is there anything you think is missing from Mystara, like a big bad that threatens anything and everyone? I think there needs to be more interaction between the nations, because the way it was written was one nation would be, one nation would be written, then another nation would be written, then another nation would be written, since they didn't know what the future nations were going to be, because they were all assigned to different people. There's not a lot of interaction between the countries. Let me see. Michael Finn, has any game taken the Necromancer into a more build-a-skeleton role instead of generic evil? You cast Animate Dead on a couple. No, there's quite a few games where Necromancers were just regular guys, especially when you change the setting so that, after the body's just considered a shell after the soul leaves it. I think Thieves' World did that. Even Planescape with the Dustmen. I Let me see. Get you out. Any thoughts on Savage World as a game system, the derivative of Deathlands? It's a generic system. As I prefer the original Deadlands, but the original Deadlands had a lot of problems. Let me see. Lucky Omen is the Trask in Mystara. No, it was never. It was never brought into Mystara. Walrus, I think Mystara is a little too Egypt land right next to the Viking land. The only problem with Mystara map is Yalarum. That's the one that sticks out the most. Everybody else kind of fits in where they're supposed to be going. But they actually wrote why there's a huge desert between Italy, Sweden, and basically Switzerland, and it's because the elves stole all the water, which kind of explains. Yeah, that's something I can see the elves doing. Artifacts. Do you think D&D would go into a mana points and just retire the Vancian magic system? I don't know. I like Vancian magic. I think wizards, should have to plan for their magic. That's personal preference. I'd rather than doing a mana point system, I prefer magic systems. If you're going to let them use spells as much as possible, have like a stress system. The more they use magic, the tougher it gets on them. Miguel Roca, is there any reason why Animate Dead is considered an evil act in Mystara? It depends on where it is. In Glantry, no magic is considered evil. In Alphatia, no magic is considered evil. Well, a few of them, but if you animate Dead in like Darrican, yeah, they're gonna think you're a dick. Well, okay, Stephen Radlett. What if WotC made Blackmoor into a campaign setting, maybe a mythical first world book? From what I understand, Blackmoor as a setting as a whole was never made past notes, which is something which a lot of people don't really want to recognize. But it would be something. But how do you make Blackmoor different from every other? Because Blackmoor was, I don't want to say it was generic fantasy because it was first, but everybody else has done it, so it kind of stole Blackmoor's thunder. Innocent Smith, 5th edition is not very fancy in Magic anymore. No, the 5th edition kind of took the sorcerer rules from 3rd edition and said, you're the new wizards, and we'll figure out what to do with the sorcerers later. Let me see. Jeff Westcamp, do you think a skill system of spellcasting could work for you? Yeah, that's how they did it in RuneQuest. That's how they did it in Rollmaster. How do you do it without making it overly complicated? Yeah, I'll tell you that. Digofish, if you hate anime, we get BASM or mate. No, I'll cover them. I'll write about anything. Just because I don't like a genre doesn't mean I won't cover something about it. Hell, I covered Fatal. Let me see. Walrus, how do you like 3.5 Pathfinder? It was fun for a while, and then we tried to get all the books to play a campaign one time, and it cracked the table. 3.5 made one rule too many, and which rule that was, I don't know. But they just that was the one that they kept the rules bloat from 2nd edition. And Pathfinder was kind of the same way, where it ended up where you needed like 12 books to make a character. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I covered Silver Age Sentinels by Agents of Gaming, and they were the guys that did BESM. Granted, it was the same. It was practically the same system, but Silver Age Sentinels was when they started dying. Oh man, that was. Oh, thank you, Moonring XD. Skulk. I barely remember what the Skulk are, and I have not read the. I've read the Skulk in 5th edition, I don't remember any of the lore. Let me see. Big Blue and Ease of Cantrips ruined Vancian magic because people just like switch to. Yeah, and I don't. If you're going to do cantrips should never cause damage. Cantrip should never ever cause damage. You should, you should. If you're going to hurt somebody, it has to be something just like wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. And like when I was working on the Bargo Book of Spells, which is like 30 spells if you want to be an asshole, and one of them was Etienne's no cantrip spell. He casts this and you can't cast cantrips around him. And people were screaming about it takes away their player agency. Let me see. Chanvier, who owns Blackmore? Dave Arneson, producer for Hugh Black. As far as I know, TSR owns Blackmore in its entirety. Dave Arneson wrote 4 books for TSR, and TSR was not going to publish anything that they couldn't have the rights to. Michael Finn, I played all the D&Ds. Would you put them over best to worst? Okay, 4th edition, again, did not do anything. Okay, so bottom line is 4th edition. 1st edition had its problems with they didn't know what to do with it for a while. It was a nice idea, but they were 1st edition was already, after just a few books, was moving on to 2nd edition before they started to try to oust Gary. Okay, then 5th edition, because it's moving away. 3.5 just from the sheer number of useful books. 2nd edition, until the rules bloat came along and kind of wrecked that, because that's when you got a lot of the great lore stuff. And then Rule Cyclopedia, which became the Rule Cyclopedia, is still the finest the game book that anybody for D&D has ever made. Let me see. Okay, going down. I just lost myself. Oh, come on. I was going to answer that question. Okay, Zen Gunman, would you cover a Powered by the Apocalypse hack called Magic Fury? Yeah, I'll cover anything. I'm just trying to I'm trying to play catch up. Hayden Torsten, have you ever heard of Dragar och Demoner? I can't say that I have. Let me see. Daniel, have you looked at the original known world files that surfaced from Moldway's pre-TSR game? Yeah, I got like 5 people email them to me the day that they hit. It was a nice idea, but I could see where they were trying to clamp down, not clamp down, but make it into something usable. No, bye Bobby. Isaac Stanley, do you know any systems where the main focus is the players figuring out how their magic powers work? That's a good one. Let me think. Paranoia. Oh, absolutely Paranoia. Let me see. What would you say is the most obvious difference between a traveler from Greyhawk would notice on Mystara? All of the travel and the international trade, which is a staple of Mystara, but Greyhawk really doesn't. The nations really don't like each other. Yep, God's favorite amp. Yep, 1st Volunteer Cavalry Regiment, any place, anytime. So we're going to go provide fire support to Thermopylae later on. Take care, Saint Ajora. Victor D20, I know Hool is a bad guy nation, but they also ratified the peace treaty of the Savage Baronies. Are they more morally great? No, the Hool, the nation of Hool, never does anything without a plan. If it's going to help them, if they're gonna broker a peace, it's going to help them later. Let me see. Daniel K. could do a campaign about the Radiance for how magic works. Yeah, the Radiance. Explaining the Radiance in great detail is probably going to be like a 30-minute video. Drakkar och Demoner. Okay, take care, Moonring XD. Yeah, it's my next Mad Musings is the Lone Wolf game, and I grew up with the Lone Wolf books, but oh my god, that RPG was like the minimal. And they've done good Lone Wolf RPGs. Well, passable. Okay, everybody. Everybody's starting to head out, and it's been 2 hours. Thanks for coming in. I appreciate each and every one of you. Lots of questions, lots of great stuff. I hope you had a great time. I have talked myself hoarse, and I will see if I can work on a Radiance video camera. And I will tomorrow. I'm having a Forever DM. We're going to be talking to Shane Hindley from Deadlands. And thank you all for coming out, and I will hopefully talk to you again in another hopefully another 5 years.